Good morning! We're just south of Llandudno, and such a nice day. We thought we'd just ride down from Llandudno to Pentrefelin along the River Conwy. Since we're here, shall we do a hill?
What's a ride without a hill?
I don't know which one's best along here. Shall we just do all of them? How many can there be?
Not that many.
Yeah, go on. We'll do all of them. Okay, it's nearly 6:30. Dad and I have driven out, which is something we don't normally do. And we're here near a place called Maenan. And today, we're going to cycle from Llandudno Junction down to Pentrefelin and do some hills on the way. The River Conwy is 34 miles long. It demarks the eastern edge of Snowdonia National Park. And really from Pentrefelin up to Llandudno and Conwy, where it opens out into the Irish Sea, is considered the Conwy Valley. As you can see from the relief map, there are some incredibly severe hills in this area, and the west of the valley is well known for climbs such as Cowlyd, Cwm Eigiau and Bwlch-y-ddeufean, just to name but a few, all of which are roughly 400 metres in elevation from bottom to top, which is a lot for the UK. What's not so well known is the eastern side of this valley. It's not in Snowdonia National Park. It doesn't have the glamour of climbing up into high mountains for the UK. It looks a lot more like rolling hills. But what it does have is hills in abundance. Up to 300 metres of elevation and an absolute plethora of them. So that's why my dad and I set out on this challenge today. So that's climb one, already boxed off.
Top of the hill.
I don't know what time it was by this point, but this is a climb we've done before, and it starts steepish, but it's among the gentler of the climbs that we have in mind today. And you can see on this descent the sort of views we're going to be blessed with all day long, hopefully. The idea for this ride came about because at first I was wondering, after I'd done Cowlyd on the west side and Melin-y-Coed on the east side, I thought, well, I wonder which side of the river is actually harder, which one has the harder hills. The west has the famous hills, but the east, people in the know regularly talk about being the harder options. So I started plotting a route, wondering if I could do every climb in the Conwy Valley in a day, and it took me about 5 minutes of plotting climbs on the east to go, no. But maybe I can do every climb on the east side. What's really nice about this side of the valley is that there's the A road at the bottom that essentially follows the course of the river, so you're almost at sea level the whole way. But then, running along the top, which is the western side of Maenan, there's a B road that almost runs parallel, not perfectly, but it means that there's this huge range of roads that go from the A road up to this B road along the tops. And you can almost do them in consistent sort of up, down, up, down, up, down. And that's exactly what we're doing today. You see these turns. I've tried to put them in as often as possible, so you might have a hope of keeping track of when I'm going uphill and when I'm going downhill here. A lot of these early climbs are basically like doing little shoulders. And one of the sort of rules I set for doing this is, imagine a road that has two approaches that merge in the middle and then it keeps going up. I'm not riding the second half twice. We'll do the full length on the first one and then we'll just go up to where we've ridden the second time. I've not explained that brilliantly, but if it makes sense, I'm never repeating vertical meters, whilst also trying to make sure that I've climbed every unique vertical meter along the way. Didn't always work out perfectly. A couple of roads were closed, for example. Sometimes we took a missed turn, and that meant we doubled up. So, yeah, an imperfect execution, but you get the idea. In many ways, this is the exact opposite of what I tried to do with the hardest 100 kilometers ride, where I was never double backing on myself. In this, I'm trying to always revert to the valley. So, yeah, the exact opposite, really. And here, we've kind of only done one hill, if you like. I've only gone to the very top of the ridgeline once at this point. But we've done several different ways up to the same point, kind of shoulders of the climb, and we're still only in this little village of Glan Conwy right at the beginning. Just at a football club near Llandudno, and they've got a milk vending machine. You love to see it. With the up and down nature of this ride, it's going to be really hard for you guys to get your bearings of where I'm riding, so I'm trying to include parts like this just to give you some context of what I've done so far. So there's the one main hill, couple of little side hills, and then rolling along to do the next sort of standalone hill, if you like. When I first plotted this route, I shared it with my dear friends, the Burrito Titans. I said, would anyone be interested in doing it with me? And I seem to remember Piglet and James being really keen, and we were sort of thinking about it. And I seem to remember an awful lot of people saying words to the effect of, fuck off. Which doesn't surprise me at all. It makes me laugh every time it happens. But then, in order to kind of encourage people a little bit, I started to think, what if we did it, well, you could do it optionally, for one, do as many climbs as you like and wait at the bottom of the others while people do them. Or alternatively, you could do it as an event where you're racing to the top, but as soon as the fastest person gets to the top and turns around, they go back down.
Oh, great.
Sorry, I've just left that silence there so you can hear how thrilled my dad was that I'd started taking him on Nick roads. The roads were much better than my normal sort of rides, but every so often we did have some proper monstrous road surfaces. So yeah, the person could race to the top, turn around, come back down, and as soon as you meet the second person, they turn around. As soon as you meet the third person, they turn around. So if you're not feeling great, you only do halfway up some of these hills. And then I thought, that may not be very fun on a social ride, because you're never riding with your mates. But that might be a really fun idea for a sporty or event-themed ride, right? It's almost like a points ride. You get a certain number of points for getting to the top of each hill first, a certain number of points for second, third, etc. And then it's all about strategy. How are you going to tackle these climbs? Are you going full gas to try and get first and potentially burn yourself out? Are you going steady to just rack up seconds, seconds, seconds? I'd really love to set up an event like that and to have people compete in it, but I think maybe I may be the only person. So if you want to do that, I've plotted a route. As a result of this, it's not all of these climbs, it's a good few of them, but it's not all of them. And I think it would work really well if everyone was so minded. So, yeah, let me know in the comments. Would you enter if I did that? This next set of climbs from the village of Pentrefelin were really quite enjoyable. They were a bit up and down. They had some very steep sections, and they felt quite tough. But the views were brilliant. They were quiet, they were nicely maintained, and they were just perfect for us to sort of get into this ride, to get a feel for it. And yeah, I really enjoyed them, even with some of the horrible surfaces. Just watch for a second. There's a little rise otherwise on a descent that just catches my dad out, and he's in his biggest gear, turns a corner, has to slow down because of me, and then he's on like only a 10 meters of 20% and he has to get off his bike. It's the only time that happened all ride, which I think is an achievement for both of us. The only foot down all ride was there. I should say on pacing, I was going for all day pacing, so I was sort of doing upper zone 3 on these climbs maybe. Stuff like we were stopping at the top of every climb for a quick bite to eat, make sure we're fueling, even though it adds time to our day. Doing everything at upper tempo. My dad was on his e-bike, but the hardest thing is going to be e-bike battery sustaining it, right? So he's got it set in Power Assist 1, which basically adds 100 watts for him. Should be ample for him to match my power, whilst also not burning out his own legs, which is the other point. And hopefully, it means that his extender battery would last far enough that when we get to the car halfway round, he can then swap extender batteries for the fully charged one he's got in the car and keep going. Fantastic. I've started packing in the climbs a little more densely here. I hope you're enjoying the views, and I hope you're enjoying the roads a little bit. But I needed to hurry this bit along. This is where I've got the most footage. This is our first sort of deviation. We go into a valley off the valley, into the little village of Eglwysbach, which is a different place, and it means we climb like a separate hill. It's hard to explain, but it's meant we have to go over a hill, back down to the main road, and then up a second hill to do a full climb. And these are just some of the shenanigans I got up to in route plotting. You know what I'm like. I've pored over this route for hours. And this was our first truly steep effort of the day. Like, not, 15% is steep. This was our first leaning over the handlebars forward to grind steps out. And this is where the pacing was really tough, because you can't keep it in upper zone 3. You have to really go hard to stay upright, but also you don't want to burn too many matches. So there's some of these Pentrefelin Climbs that we did, and then you take this deviation off the main road and towards Eglwysbach. Over the course of the day, we had different sort of views, and I stopped at this one because it was one of my favourites. There's the view of the mountains, but there's also the view down the river and out to sea, and I thought this spot was just absolutely stunning. Is the gradient coming out? My guess is probably not, but this is absolutely stupid. But Christ, if this isn't what it's all about, what is? I'm tired already, but it's even more than I expected it to be. It's amazing here. I'm tired, but we're having a great time so far. I hope we can maintain the fun we're having, because it's beautiful, and this is exactly the sort of thing I enjoy doing. It's slow. I think we've done more elevation than that, truth be told. And we're about to get to the village that inspired this, called Eglwysbach. But there's 2 or 3 climbs out of this same village that people say are harder than Cowlyd, harder than Melin-y-Coed. Now, I've heard that about a few climbs, and I tend to disagree. Let's see if I agree or disagree on this one. I'm a fair judge. I'll try them all before saying, no, it isn't. So we descended with this magnificent view of the Conwy. I know I don't want to, like, flog a dead horse here, but it was fantastic. And actually, before doing the climbs out of Eglwysbach, we went up this climb, which is one of the longest of the day, but it's very much like pitched, and there's very long false flats in it. I would hate to do this as an actual effort, but this kind of switchback hairpin here was really nice. And I've come down this hill once when I did my 200k, where I did Bwlch-y-ddeufean and Melin-y-Coed at the end of last year. If you remember that video where I was absolutely miserable because I got rained on and thunderstormed. So I've not flogged it too much. Here we are coming back down it, even though that was like 10 or 15 kilometres even. Take this left turn into this village. To expand a little bit, there was one comment which is, like, it sounds like I've been hung up on this for years, but actually I just read it and I thought, I'll have to check that out, and it's taken me a while to check it out. But when me and Phil did our Northern Loop video a couple of years ago, the first time my face was ever on YouTube, I think, a guy commented saying, oh, there's loads of climbs harder than Cowlyd, and he said Melin-y-Coed puts Cowlyd to shame, which I'll address later, but he also said there's like 6 or 7 steep climbs out of Eglwysbach that are on a par with it. So this is the first one, although you can argue that hairpin where we could see the Conwy earlier kind of falls under that umbrella of steep climbs out of this village. So as we were going up now, I kept saying to my dad, do you think this is harder than Cowlyd? But my dad's never done Cowlyd. Whether or not they are, look at the sort of views that we were dealing with all day. Of course they're better in person. They are so much better in person. You know, look at these roads. They're really quite good For being Welsh lanes that are only used by farmers, they're really quite good. I was confident going fast down the descents, with of course the asterisk you always have in Wales, that there's poor visibility, it's single lane, there might be a car or there might be a rock on any bend, so you can't just absolutely cane it like a nice visible open Alp corner.
I'm limited to level 1 at the moment. It's the extender's about to run out, which is why I'm limited. But I'll live with it. No, just ride off.
And this is the village in question. And this is going to be what I'd identified as probably the hardest climb. I told my dad that I wanted to have a go, but not like a full gas go. 90-95% go. So we turned this left-hander, and off I went in a very underwhelming manner. So, Ford Bryn Fran doesn't look that much. 3 km, 10%, so 300 metres climbing. But I know that there's like 30% sections on this, and something I often struggle with, I'm used to climbs around 2 kilometres, and even up to, you know, 12%, 2 kilometres. That's what we get in the Clwyds, that's what we get in the Dee Valley. When you're getting into that 3rd kilometre, I have so often burnt myself out. That sign you just saw there, the science nerd in me, it made me seethe, because it says 1 in 3%. That doesn't make sense. It's either 1 in 3 or it's 30%. God, I still think about it. So now we're on the 30% section. Look at the gradient. My Garmin seems to be behaving to an extent. Actually, I think it's overestimating these grades a little bit, but look at how slowly me and my dad are pedaling. Look, I'm at 180 BPM, 45 RPM cadence. I'm doing over threshold mostly, and I'm going 3 kilometers an hour. It is steep. So what I was saying before I interrupted myself is that I tend to go too hard on the easier bits at the beginning, and then you get to these sections where you have to go over threshold. You have no choice. And I think I'm going to fall off my bike because I can't do the 350 to 400 watts. I need to stay upright. So I tried the opposite on this climb, and I paced myself much better. I averaged 320 watts, I think, up most of it, which I was really happy with. But also, I started much easier. Look how steep this is. I'm leaning over my handlebars forwards because it's the only thing I can do. I don't know how my wheel's not slipping. Actually, it did just spin a little bit there, if you saw. But it's crazy. I love that Dad Cam gets to give you that perspective of just what a mess I am on my bike. I'm not... If you ever look at feather climbing, my God, what an athlete. He is always in control of every muscle from his head to his toe. Everything looks sturdy. I looked like that wet noodle cyclist that I talk about sometimes, which is not great.
I think it's the opposite, I think.
My dad asked me a question up here, and I just flat out ignored him. I heard it, I was right next to him, and I just flat out didn't reply for about 2 minutes.
No, it's still saying...
And then after that, I went,
It's just...
yeah, because that was the answer. He understood what was going on. But imagine, yeah, asking a simple question, 2 minutes later when it's no longer relevant, just getting, yeah. And we flew straight down it again. Stopped at these public toilets. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Welsh, small village public toilets. Absolute boss.
Goodness.
This is another approach to the same climb. You may have just heard me go, oh my, and my dad stepped in with goodness, because I think I said, oh my fuck. Which, yeah, no point my dad censoring me if I'm going to say it on the voiceover, is there? I actually didn't need to put my my rain cape on before this. It started spitting and I was getting scared about we're out all day. I want to make sure that I'm okay. But it was a real error in judgment. So this goes halfway up Fford Bryn Fran, and it's very steep. It's steeper than Fford Bryn Fran mostly, and it was harder. It was less nice, if I'm honest, because it's just, look at all these high hedges. It's not like you're riding up the little river valley like you were on the other one. But nonetheless, it was a real challenge, and if I hadn't just done that hard one, I'd have been going relatively full gas up here too. What surprised me is, okay, it's only like a km and a bit or something, but it is really steep for continually for a really long time. It's not like, oh, just on this corner there's 33%. Really prolonged periods of 20% plus.
Then this combo is the hardest.
Straight ahead of me is, I think, Pentrefelin, which is the second highest mountain in Snowdonia. But it's also the mountain that Cowlyd sort of coasts up the side of a little bit. And we're on the other side, having just done 2 climbs that someone online told me were harder than Cowlyd. We're struggling for a frame of reference, to be honest with you, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you that they're the same order of magnitude. So you can go down there. Do you see that sign? It's not coming out very well, but it says 1 in 3. Or you can come up this way, which looks innocuous, but is probably the harder of the two. I think it was the harder of the two. What do you reckon, Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Straight back down it then. And do you know what? I want to say thank you to that commenter. I don't even remember his name. But this village is nuts. This is a nothing road. This doesn't go anywhere. And this is, again, the best part of 25 to 30% at the beginning. So we just went up this. Surface is worse. But it's just unrelenting. There are, sure enough, 6 or 7 stupid steep climbs out of this village. And what's nice about them is they're all quite different in character. We're about to do the 3rd major one, if you like. There's kind of, to my mind, 3 or maybe 4 big ones that do the best part of 300 meters elevation. This is Pennant, okay, 250 meters of elevation. And they're all a bit different. Obviously, you've seen the ones we've done. One was flat with very steep bits. One was just very steep. And now this one is continually, I would call, smoother. You can sit and grind this, but it is a K and a bit. Oh, well, not quite 20% maybe. But, you know, properly steep still. And a really nice, smooth gradient all the way up. Absolutely rubbish for me. That is how not to take a hairpin. I do apologise. Don't start tight. I ended up having to kick out really, really wide just to not kick my front wheel. Absolute idiot. I know better than that. And here we go again. Watch me mess up this hairpin. Downhill this time. Too wide. Nearly went off the side. Maybe I'm not the cyclist I think I am. This was a cracking descent. This is one of the few things where I got a top 10 going downhill, not uphill. So I was well outside of the uphill top 10, but down it, yeah, all good. So this is just a summary of some of the Eglwysbach climbs. It's a crazy place. I'm going to say this now. If any of you have looked at this and gone, I want to go at some of them, give me a shout. I'd like to spend a day where I go to Eglwysbach and try 4 or 5 of these climbs hard and not have to think I'm doing 200 kilometers today. Do 60k and try 5 or 6 mega climbs and then go home. This is the final one, the little final gift from Eglwysbach that I didn't ask for. I thought after we'd done that, me and my dad were just going to roll. I knew there was a little bit of a climb, but basically roll over back to the car for lunch. And I kept telling him, we do Pennant, roll down, and it's a bit of a bobble over to the car. Look at this climb. It is absolutely not a little bobble. It's, again, 25% plus on this hairpin, and it goes on for a long time. It's only 150 metres of climbing, but still, this valley just delivers climb after climb. That wasn't meant to be a pun on time after time, but it sounded like it, didn't it? Yeah. Accidental poetry. So, after this, I've got some footage of us going downhill and back up a bit, but I think at this point we were really thinking, we want a proper break. We need to go for lunch. Coming into 100k. This is one of the more nick roads. Look, my dad said that's not just a dilapidated road surface. They're mowing that lawn in the middle of the road. So we came down to the main road, immediately did a U-turn, straight back up this big steep climb. And yeah, I think our mood had dipped just a little bit. Dad was certainly... I dropped my chain at one point, and my dad was just like, I'm just going to keep riding because I don't want to have to stop, which I totally understood. And I struggled with it because when I plotted this, I thought this was a clear climb from the main road to the top again, but actually it was like 6, 7, 8 turns. I'd lost track of where I was. It was up and down. It was rubbish. So I've left it out, and here's our lunch break. This is like a summary of the last bit I've done. Yeah, that hard climb and then the bobbly that wasn't worth doing. I'd just leave that out if I was to ride this again. We've gone back to the car for lunch. This route really doesn't have much in the way of amenities along it. Planned in advance, brought a massive bottle of water, but also leftovers. So we can have pasta bake for lunch. How are you feeling, Dad?
Tired, but optimistic.
Good. Happy with our picnic spot?
Oh, absolutely. Happy with the picnic as well.
Yeah. The last 20k felt like, is it not lunchtime yet? Are we not back at the car yet? Certainly lost the charm of it in the last 20k. I'm hoping the up and down thing will return from here, but who knows? I'm looking forward to the second half, and I'm fully thinking I'll complete it, but in my head it's Melin-y-Coed and saving energy for Melin-y-Coed. There is nothing else in my brain about this second half. So we got rolling again with full bellies, but I think slightly less enthusiastic, tired legs, and to be honest, this middle section was a bit uninspiring, although actually the climb directly around Maenan was brilliant. But it's just a bit like hit and miss whether you're going uphill, getting properly stuck in. Fallen tree, how exciting is that? That was pretty funny to ride through. There were a few things like this that were just like, okay, guess we're dealing with that now. That slightly changed our plans. But this felt very middle of nowhere. And like I say, there are steep bits, but then it's not like one defined climb. It's hard to get stuck into. We had to change our plans a little bit here and there, which meant slowing down in terms of having to, you know, stop and talk about what we're going to do, where we're going to go. Struggled to kind of get momentum going again. But then we've just gone through a village. I think it's called Llanddoged, and that was quite a nice point. It's almost Llanrwst. It's like 2k from a Llanrwst maybe. We went all the way down to the river and back up through this village. And you can see that from the river up is really steep start. Nice climb. And then up through this village, it was really long. It was pretty steep, but it was continuous, and thus a bit more enjoyable again. At this point, I think it's fair to say my dad was starting to struggle just a little bit more. And so was I, but I was also just starting to get a bit stressy, as you probably know that I do get. Started to be like, look, it's 3 o'clock. We've been here since 7 AM or whatever. I don't really want to be here till midnight, but I do want to do it, so I just need to start being a bit more efficient. Need to, fewer stops unless we need them, bit less faffing. And on the flats, I was really feeling the need to push on. But Dad's e-bike doesn't support that really, so then he has a choice of pushing on and holding my wheel unassisted, or me be a knobhead and just drop him like you can see there. In retrospect, probably wasn't the finest choice I could have made, but nonetheless, it is what happened, so I feel a bit bad watching that back. Dad told me his legs are short, and he's just zoomed up. If you didn't hear that, Dad caught me. Told me his legs were shot, and then disappeared. I just showed the top of the main road out of Llanrwst. Great climb if you like a steady 6 to 8% climb for 5k or something. Not really my sort of thing, but I really enjoyed it. We had a tailwind, which was a blessing up there. And then also there was a climb to a place called Carmel, not Cartmel. Cartmel's in the lakes. Which was steady, which is an alternative to Melin-y-Coed. So that was great. And then there was one when my dad said, I don't want to do this. My e-bike battery is dying. It's only a short, sharp climb. I'll wait at the bottom. And that was the start of us separating just a little bit for these climbs, which made sense. Made sense for him, certainly, and he wanted to get up Melin-y-Coed. That was what we were targeting, so that's what he focused on. So this is the village of Melin-y-Coed, lovely bridge. You know what that means. We're here. We're going to try Melin-y-Coed. I genuinely don't know if I'm going to make it up. I'm promised that I'm going to try my best. I don't know at all what's going to happen. So yeah, looking forward to it.
That was a... Why am I doing this noise?
So for context, I'd asked my dad what that noise was. Yeah, he said, "Why? It's a why am I doing this noise?" So this is Melin-y-Coed, or some people call it Bryn Hill, because it goes up to Bryn Farm. You'll know that I think this is one of the stupidest climbs in the UK. 40% sounds unlikely. These are my dad's stats, by the way, because only he got footage at this point, and I thought it should represent him properly. And that power is the power he's putting out, not with any e-bike assistance. We don't do the full segment because of where we came out, because of the way I've structured this ride, never doubling up on vertical ascent. But nonetheless, this is a crazy climb. We do the whole, like, kilometre that's about 20+%, and then this climb just drags on still as well. This really is everything I've got. You can see how slow my cadence is. We're doing 4 kilometres. And this is a decent way into this climb at this point. So, let's ask again, is this harder than Cowlyd? This section is harder than any section on Cowlyd. That's a cop-out answer, isn't it? It depends who you are. You know, are you the sort of person that's struggling to get up the really steep stuff? In which case, yes. If you're someone who's okay getting up anything but wants to go full gas, no, I think Cowlyd's harder. Just so unrelenting. Go on, Dad! How was your first Melin-y-Coed? That kilometre was the hardest kilometre cycling I've ever done in my life. I know that sounds like hyperbolic, that's the word, come on Nick. My god, it was horrible. Right, I need to catch up with my dad. So then we rolled on. As you can see, the weather's getting worse. I think we were getting into like dinner time, by which I mean 5-6 o'clock, and it was getting bit grippy, bit emotional. I was still enjoying it, and by this point I thought, I've made it up Melin-y-Coed, I'm gonna complete this. I really haven't known if I was going to be able to complete this, guys. Like, since May I've been ill, I'm still ill. I'm looking down the barrel of, if my next treatment doesn't work, I'm going to be told I have to have 2 or 3 months off the bike, so that's bleak and that's playing on my mind. So to just have completed this feels amazing. So yeah, I wanted to see it through. I really wanted to see it through, even though it was hard. This is after Melin-y-Coed. I think this is a climb called notoriety. Only my dad's got footage now, and I sort of abandoned him, full-on bastard. He just had the lowest level of assist, and his battery was struggling pretty hard. This is a beautiful climb. I really enjoyed it. A bit up and down for me, but really pretty climb. Steep, not something I wanted to do at 180k in and 6,000 metres.
I can't do any more climbs, Nick. Happy to wait for you at the bottom of them. That sounds very attractive.
That's where we lose any footage at this point, because only my dad's camera had battery left, and he's now not doing the climbs with me. So what we did instead was we rode together to the bottom of the climbs, and then my dad was meant to wait at the bottom for me to go up. I said, you can go back to the car, you can go and sit in a pub in Llanrwst, I will come and find you. But his phone was dying, so he didn't want to do that. And truth be told, I think there may have been a little bit of pride in there, because not once did he actually wait at the bottom. I'd come down and he'd be at least like a quarter or halfway up. You know, going slowly, keeping warm, but not once was he actually still. I want to take maybe 1 minute to say just how proud of him I am. At 61, you'd be forgiven for saying, I'm not doing that. I'm retired and I just want to have a nice time. This is stupid. But to have the balls to take on the challenge with me, and when it got to this point, like 10 hours out, it's raining, it's windy, absolutely knackered, and to say, no, I'm going to ride to the bottom of each and every bit left, not to say we have to go home, which if Dad had said I want to go home at this point, of course I'd have been disappointed. I wouldn't have hidden that I was disappointed, but not with him, just because between us we couldn't complete it. I'd have been disappointed to not complete it, and I'd have been completely on board. And yet, he said he would wait at the bottom of each climb and go to them with me. That's a sort of like mental toughness that I aspire to. So I don't think I said this to him. Just got in the car and I said a very stoic, well done. I'm incredibly proud to have a role model like that. So if you're going to comment on this video, please, I'd love to see people acknowledge that, see just how well my dad did and point that out. Now, in the absence of actual footage, here's the relive little bit of all the other climbs I did. So I went up a couple of dead ends there. I went up Nebo Road, then 2 climbs to Capel-Garman, which is near Melin-y-Coed, and the end of this ride. Hello from the not so nice Conwy Valley. I've just done the last climb. I'm fucked. I crawled up it at 200, 250 watts maybe. I'm dead. I'm absolutely dead. Dad's battery died and then Dad struggled, so he's just at the bottom. Back to the car now, 20k with some incidentals, but oh, I can't believe I did it. I'm sorry this was such a long video, but for such a day out, I just needed to show you. This is what we had to climb up to get to the car, by the way. So yeah, 216k in, that's what I had to do. What a day out. I loved every second of it, and I hope this video's done it a little bit of justice. Here's my final activity on Strava. You can pause there if you want the stats. I'm not going to draw this video out anymore. Thank you for watching, guys. It's been good to us, our little camping spot. Yeah. What have you done?
6,165 metres.
Okay. It's a couple of things. I'm knackered.
Righteously.
Yeah. How are you feeling now?
Bruised, battered, beaten. Otherwise okay.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise. Time to get home. It's been a long day.